So you're ready to deploy on Akash Network. Now most people are going to be satisfied with the standard Akash console experience, which lets you sign up with an email and pay with a credit card. That's the standard way of doing business for a lot of folks. But what if you are a Web3 project and your customers pay you in digital currency? Or what if you're a privacy maxi and you don't want to have your credit card on file? What if you don't even have a credit card that Stripe, which is Akash's payment processor, is willing to take? Then Akash Console Air is for you. My name is Kaylem, and today I'm going to speed run you through how to deploy with Akash Console Air. Here's what we're going to need before we get started. First is the Kepler wallet with the browser extension, which we're going to use to sign our transactions. Next, we're going to need some AKT in that wallet, of course. And that's all you really need. There are no signups, no email, no credit cards needed. Let's get started. So let's head over to air.akash.network, and this is where you're going to find Console Air. The first thing you're going to do is connect your Kepler wallet, which is the button up here on the top right. I'm going to choose Kepler, and I have already approved previously, but you're going to get a request for approval to connect. You just click approve, and then you're in. Once you're into your dashboard, you will find your templates on the left here in the navigation. But if you're looking to deploy your own thing, you can just click deployments and then create deployment, and then you can run a custom container where you can input your own, either you upload your SDL or you can just paste it here for your liking. Obviously, when you're deploying on Akash, not everything is going to be available in the template section, but for the purpose of this demonstration, we are going to deploy Tetris using this templates that we have available. So I'm going to go here, click through templates, I'm going to hit the deploy button, and here you'll see the SDL as shown before, where we can edit what resources that we need. We can change the memory, the amount of storage that we have, even apply GPU if necessary. But for our Tetris example, I'm just going to leave it as it is because that's why we have a template. So we're going to create deployment, and then once you hit the create deployment, you're going to be shown a screen where you can show how much money you want to deposit into this escrow account for you to start that contract with you and the provider to deploy the Tetris game, right? Now, one thing that trips people up is that you don't actually pay your providers in AKT, not directly. You pay in something called ACT, which is the Akash Network's stable payment valued at $1. This way, the value of the AKT that you deposited into the systems stays consistent and constant in value as you pay for your lease over time, right? So in this case, I already have a balance of ACT, but if you don't have a balance of ACT, you could go to air.akash.network/mintburn, where you can then convert your AKT to ACT easily with buttons here that you can click, or you can type in the exact value that you want, and you can go ahead and mint that ACT. So let me refresh this since I've already logged in already. There it goes. And then as you can see, I already have ACT minted, so I'm not going to mint some more. But if you don't have any ACT, you can mint that here. And where you can get your money back is you can also come back here, hit this arrow switcheroo button, and you can then convert whatever ACT that you have back into AKT, depending on whatever the price is of AKT at the time. So both of that can be done here in this mint burn page. Now let's go back to our deployment. We're gonna go ahead and hit the deploy. Keep in mind that I'm only putting 50 cents of deployment into this Tetris game, and we're gonna hit the submit button. It's gonna ask me to approve the transaction, which we will. And now we've sent our request for resources out to the general marketplace, where if a provider has our resources that we requested, depending on what we requested, it's going to submit a bid automatically. And here we have a list of bids. So you can pick a bid based on just price in general, depending on what it is that you're doing. But if you have maybe a need for lower latency, you can choose based on location. And if you're running a business with it, or you're doing some kind of important workload, you can also check the 7-day rolling uptime that each provider has. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to choose the cheapest price, a provider out in New Jersey, and we're going to accept the bid. So here it's going to ask me to approve again, no problems, and we're going to wait for this transaction to go through, because now we are doing a peer-to-peer transaction with that specific provider, and it's going to start to deploy our image as requested onto the provider. Just gonna give it a second here. It's gonna load up. And now it's loading into the provider. We can see a couple of tabs here. We have events tab, which shows exactly what happened here. The logs show similar, so you can go dive into it if you need to troubleshoot. We have a shell here where you can SSH in and use it as a regular Docker instance. Then you have leases, which shows all the information on the lease, how much we're paying, who the provider is, and whether or not that deployment is actively running, as well as the URL that's down here that if we click, we'll go straight to our Tetris game as promised. So as you can see here, I'm not gonna play too long, so we're gonna close that out really quickly. And then the last is the update page here. So for our Tetris game, maybe there's gonna be a new update, like maybe a V1 or a V2, and you can just go ahead and update the image. If you were deploying a website like I've done recently, you might have changes to the website, and so this is where you would just go and load up the next version of the website. If you need additional resources and whatnot, this is not the area for it. You would just have to rebid for that job to up the resources if you decide you need more storage or more memory or things like that. The last thing that I want to talk about is this button right here, Add Funds. So the difference between a managed version with the Akash console regular and Air is that on console Air, you are in charge of making sure that your balance is paid. So in this case, when I first started this Tetris game, I only spent 50 cents on the balance, on how much money I want to put into the contract. And so at $1.82 a month, this will give me about 8 days of active time for the game to be hosted. Now, if I were not doing this just for this presentation, then I might want it to be longer than 8 days, so I would have to click the Add Funds to add additional funds to keep it ongoing. And so we don't want to forget when we have to add funds, because if you forget, then the deployment will go down and then you will lose all of the everything you have on the deployment, right? So if you are running a important deployment, I suggest you do maintain a good balance and do remember to top up as needed. So the last thing I want to show you is how to close this deployment. So Akash deployments are ongoing and they keep running until either you run out of money in the escrow account or you close it yourself. So if you're testing, in my case, I'm just showing a demonstration, I'm going to want to close this deployment. So it's just as simple as clicking that and then approving the closing transaction. And then that's basically it. And now in about a few more seconds, our deployment will be closed, just as easy as we opened it. And that's it. We just deployed to the cloud without an email, without a credit card, and without handing identifying data to anybody. This is your wallet, your funds, and your deployment from start to finish. That's the whole point of Akash Console Air. And if you get stuck and you need help, the Akash Discord is full of people who've been there where you are. The link is on the screen. Once again, my name is Kaylem, and thanks for watching. Now go deploy something.